How India became the superpower in the world. And did you know before we became the second fastest growing economy before we became a $2.4 trillion economy? Today, India stands as a powerful nuclear state. And this journey took US 52 years and 2 generations of leaders and scientists to reach the destination. And today, their dedication is the reason why India stands at a respectable position in the world economy. But as usual, this is one of the most important chapters of Indian history that is not taught in schools and colleges. This is a story that dates way back to 1945. When World War II just ended, India had just got their independence. And for the first time in the history of mankind, the leaders of the world had seen the power of a nuclear bomb at Hiroshima. August 9, 1945, a United States Army Air Force B-29 dropped a plutonium bomb nicknamed Fat Man over the city of Nagasaki, Japan. And when people saw what these bombs did to Japan, everybody realized that if they want to command the power in the 21st century, they have to have a nuclear bomb. In 1945 USA, Russia did it in 1949, UK did it in 1952. France did it in 1960. Lastly, China conducted their test in 1964. And while these countries were conducting their nuclear test, nobody in the world said anything. But as soon as this inner circle of world power finished their nuclear test, they came up with something called the Non-Proliferation Treaty. In 1968, this treaty stated that non-nuclear states must commit themselves to not manufacture or acquire nuclear weapons, while nuclear weapons states commit not to in any way assist, encourage or help any non-nuclear state to acquire nuclear weapons. Now, the question we hear is, when so many countries signed this deal, why did India not sign it? Well, that is because, ladies and gentlemen, something crazy was happening at the borders of India. On 20th of October 1962, the Chinese invade India and lost about 43,000 square kilometers of land, which was captured by China incision. On the 20th of October 1962, the Chinese army launched a massive attack on India. And then immediately, in just 3 years, we got attacked again by Pakistan. We were facing both severe food shortages and famine problems all across the country. While Durji Tata actively financed research initiatives, Homi Bhabha was able to use this capital to establish world-class institutes like Tata Institute of Fundamental Research and Thrombo Atomic Energy Establishment in 1954, and cherry on the cake in 1965, that is just 1 year after China became a nuclear state, Shastri actively gave the go-ahead for the production of nuclear explosives in India. And this is what led to the launch of Nuclear Explosive Design Group and something called the Study of Nuclear Explosions for Peaceful Purposes, or SNAPP. But shockingly, in just 3 months, in January 1966, Homi Bhabha died in a plane crash. And what's even more shocking is that in the same freaking month, even Shastri died due to suspicious reasons. As a result, the nuclear program of India took a hit. And just 5 years later, another India-Pakistan war broke out in 1971 when Pakistan launched something called Operation Searchlight on East Pakistan, which is modern-day Bangladesh. This was one of the bloodiest events in the history of Asia, whereby the Pakistani army killed 3 million Bengalis. But in this process, the Pakistani army made one big mistake. In December 1971, Pakistani Air Force attacked the airfields in India, and when they did it, it gave India the legal justification to formally enter the war. And in between this war, you know what happened? The United States of America deployed their 75,000-ton 7 fleet against India in the Bay of Bengal. It was the world's largest warship and had a capacity to carry more than 70 fighters and bombs. So while the Brits were about to target India's western coast, the Americans were about to make a dash into the Bay of Bengal to Bangladesh. And between this British and American fleet was our one and only INS with barely 20 light fighter aircrafts. And here's where, as we all know, Russia came to our rescue with a nuclear-armed fleet with 2 cruisers, 2 destroyers, support vessels along with 6 freaking submarines. This is the reason why the Brits and Americans backed out and finally Bangladesh got its independence in March 1971. And this is when Richard Nixon, the then president of the US, actually considered dropping a nuclear bomb in India in 1971. So immediately on 7 of September 1972, Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi authorized the work on nuclear fission device. And just 2 years later, the first nuclear test was conducted in India in 1974 under an operation called Smiling Buddha. But this was not a weapons-grade test, but it was a peaceful nuclear explosion that could be used for mining techniques or to conduct large underground works. And just when we were about to upgrade to the nuclear weapons stage, India met with another series of hurdles. The emergency happened, the government collapsed, the economy went topsy-turvy, and the second oil shock happened in 1979. The proclamation of emergency meant that not only elections were banned, but there was strict censoring of the press as well. The period was termed as the darkest hour in Indian history. The oil-producing countries of the Arab world decided to use their oil as a political weapon. So again, for the next 20 years, due to economic and political hurdles, we could not pursue a nuclear status at all. But you know what guys, during this time, that is from 1975 to 1995, the Indian army knew very well that China was sharing technology and materials with Pakistan. And they also knew that the Pakistani army would soon have nuclear weapons. So the question over here is, how did India handle the situation, and how the hell did we hack our way to become a nuclear state? Well, here is where we saw another day of hope in 1995. By this time, India had opened up its economy, we started growing at a phenomenal pace, and eventually we again came to a position to focus on our nuclear project. This is when PM approved a nuclear test, but unfortunately, the CIA detected suspicious movement at Pokhran and the mission was aborted. But this is where, ladies and chairmen, for the third time. In 1996, Atal Bihari came to power, and this is where we saw three more legends come together to fulfill the long-standing nuclear dream of India. And they were Atal J, APJ Abdullah from TR, and Dr. Ramana, who was the chief of the Department of Atomic Energy in India. But even before they could get started, Vajpayee's government fell in just 13 days. And again for the next 2 years, nothing happened. And then came the climax year of 1998, when Atal J again became the Prime Minister of India. So immediately on 8th of April, PM was summoned, thumbs up was given for the test, and the entire operation was conducted in high secrecy that nobody except the then Home Minister knew about it. And finally on 11th of May 1998 at around 3:45 PM, India tested 3 devices, which were Shakti 1, Shakti 2 and Shakti 3. This was followed by 2 more detonations of Shakti 4 and Shakti 5. And finally the grand announcement was made by India to the world at 15:45 hours. This is how, ladies and gentlemen, India became a nuclear power. And you know what? Just 2 weeks later, Pakistan responded with its own atomic blast and became a nuclear power too. India today is one among just the 9 nuclear states. And India today is not just the second fastest growing economy, but also a powerful state that can voice an opinion that is seriously considered by the world.